Okay, good morning, everyone. Here is the routine weekly briefing for Central North Carolina for today, starting Thursday through next Wednesday, the 30th. My name is Gail Hartfield. I'm senior forecaster here at the Weather Service, and let's get started with our drought outlook. This is hot off the presses. Just got this, and this graphic is courtesy of the State Climate Office located here in our building at NC State campus in Raleigh. So we have seen an expansion of the moderate drought, that's D1 area, to cover portions of the central coastal plain into the southern Piedmont. We haven't had a lot of rain lately, and I'll show you the last week's worth of rainfall here. So you can see how little we've gotten. But yeah, after I think we had a brief period where we had very little drought covering our area, and now we're starting to see that expand because of the lack of rainfall. And highlighted that you can see in the graphic there on the left is Jackson Springs down there in the far southern Piedmont has had under an inch of rain in the last 30 days. So it's a pretty dry conditions going on. So yeah, so we'll keep our eye out on that. And here is, as I mentioned, the last 7 days of precipitation, not a lot, you know, which is nice. We've had quite a bit of sunshine, which has been good for outdoor activities and whatnot. But as you can see, we're really starting to turn into a deficit here, so we could use some rain coming up. Okay, this is the latest satellite image just grabbed there just to show you what's going on around the country and around our area. Just a little bit of mid-level cloudiness this morning. But a lot of that is kind of falling apart. We've got some showers and storms that have affected areas from the Great Lakes eastward into Pennsylvania. A lot of that has fallen apart before it's reached here, but we are starting to see some of that cloudiness with that. But southern sections, quite a bit of sunlight today, and as a result, our temperatures are already at last hour up into the upper 70s to lower 80s. Okay, so looking at the upcoming weather pattern here, we do have that deep upper level high pressure area. You might have heard in the news about all the heat warnings, and I should put a map on here of all we have so many heat warnings. Basically, the entire central third of the country is covered by a heat advisory or a heat warning in the last couple days, and that is due to a big area of high pressure in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, and that has covered most of the plains and extended eastward into the Carolinas. And that will continue through today, so producing our fairly calm weather. We do have a small chance of rain today, but in general, the vast majority of us will remain dry today. So as that high over the centered over the central part of the country, it does start to weaken across the eastern U.S., and that's because of a low pressure area in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere over the northeast, the St. Lawrence Valley and the northeast states. And that will kind of start to deepen and kind of carve out a little bit southward and kind of push that high pressure area back to the west. So as that weakens, we're going to start to see a backdoor cold front coming in from the north. That will happen on Friday and into Saturday, and that will kind of stay here for the next through the weekend, kind of transition to more of a surface pressure trough. So very weak feature, and that will last through early next week. But as that front dissipates, we are going to see a stronger cold front approaching from the northwest by Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see there in the bottom right graphic, you can see that coming in. So we will start to see our rain chances popping up a little bit as we get into the latter part of the week in particular and into Monday as well. Here's our severe thunderstorm outlook for the next few days. We do have general thunder mentioned in the west. I'm not real excited about that. We could get a few lightning strikes, but I would say that the vast majority of us are not going to see a storm at all. We do have a small chance of some light showers, some sprinkles today. Again, mainly across the north and west sections, but in general, most of us will stay dry today. We are outlooked for a marginal risk there for tomorrow. that is very conditional on getting any storms at all. There's quite a disparity in what some of our guidance is telling us, and some of what this pattern is. This pattern's one where you could get a storm and you could not. So we could see some scattered storms, or we could be completely dry. So it's a tough pattern to try to forecast for. We can start getting into this what we call a northwest flow situation, where you have strong northwesterly winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere to the north and to the northwest of us. And that can start to bring some of the busy weather into our area, but it's still too uncertain whether that's going to really get into our northern sections or not. So a little uncertainty with that, but any storm that does happen, because we're going to start to see some of those west-northwest winds in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, some of the stronger winds upstairs are going to start coming down into our area. And then when that does, you could see any storm that occurs could become strong. So we'll be on the looking out for that, of course, tomorrow. As we get into Saturday, Sunday, just Saturday, we're just looking at general thunder expected. And probably Sunday as well. They don't do a general thunder outlook for that period time frame. They're more looking at severity, but in general, through the next Sunday, through the next several days after that, are generally going to be fairly quiet storm-wise. We could see some downpours, heavy downpours that can produce localized flooding, and I'll get to that in just a bit. But as far as the strong to severe threat, really, we're looking at a very conditional threat on tomorrow afternoon and evening as well. Okay, here's our rainfall forecast for the next few days. You can see very sparse activity. Again, today, mostly today and tomorrow across the west and the north is where we're kind of focusing. But again, it's fairly conditional tomorrow on what kind of coverage we're going to get. And today as well, we're looking at mainly scattered and light precipitation for most of the area. Again, you can see a slow moving downpour there toward the Triad and over by Charlotte. But other than that, not a whole lot today in our area, especially coastal sections. As we start getting into Saturday, we could start seeing some more downpour threat, mainly along coastal sections, some more typical stuff that we normally see during the summertime. And by the time we get to Sunday, Monday, a little bit higher. You can see there a little bit higher rainfall amounts, a little bit better coverage of showers and storms as we get Sunday into Monday, as that front I mentioned starts to weaken and we start getting a little warmer, soupier, higher relative humidity, and we start to see those shower and storm chances pop up. So again, not too big a threat in the next few days. As we get Sunday, Monday, looks like a little bit better chance of rain for pretty much everybody. And following through that, the Weather Prediction Center's excessive rainfall outlook, we have an excessive rain, a marginal risk there. You can see in the center and the rightmost graphic on Friday and into Saturday in the east. We're not very excited about that. It's going to be like any storm that does occur could produce heavy rain because the storm motion is going to be fairly slow, but widespread, we're not expecting a flooding risk at all as we get into through Saturday. So we're working with the Weather Prediction Center a little bit, and we may be looking at that threat being bumped a little more toward coastal sections on Saturday. So tune in for more on that. Okay, and now as we look into the next week, looking like generally warmer and drier trends. As you can see there, 33 to 50% chance of above normal temperatures, fairly on the middling edge when it comes to our area. So we're closer to the 33 to 40%. And same thing with the precipitation outlook. We're on the low end of just a slight leaning toward dry conditions. And we are starting to see our normal temperatures coming down. I think the last time we did this briefing last week, our normal highs were about a degree or so warmer. So we're starting to see those coming down. So fall is coming eventually. It will get here, but it's a slow trend. So we still have some potential for some hot days ahead for sure. Now looking at the tropics, and maybe save the most interesting stuff for last for some of you who are interested in this tropical stuff. We do have a pretty active Atlantic going on, and this has been a little bit of a change. We had some quiet weather for a while out there, but now we've got 4 systems that the National Hurricane Center is looking at. Starting out in the east there, we have a 40% chance of that system in the central Atlantic developing over the next 7 days. There's another system there to the north and west of that. You can see in the very center of the North Atlantic, and that is a 70% chance of developing. So that's a little bit more robust a system. Both of those are forecast to be well away from the East Coast over the next several days. So whatever if they do develop, they won't be an immediate threat. So we'll continue to look out for that. And then working westward, we've got Franklin, who is out there. That is a little east-northeast of the Turks and Caicos at last look. And that is forecast to become a hurricane by Saturday. You can see there the graphic in the top right there, the H there has it turning into a hurricane. This is the latest forecast from the Hurricane Center. And, you know, it's expected to stay just west of Bermuda, and that's the latest forecast right now. And stay offshore for the most part. That said, and there it's far enough away that we've got a little bit of time, but whenever you've got a storm out there, especially a hurricane force storm, one that's been a hurricane for a day or two, you're going to start to be concerned about rip current risks along the East Coast and heavy swells from that. So that's something that we and the Hurricane Center will be on the lookout for, is the potential for some rip current risk, especially as we get into, you know, weekends. People are trying to get the last weekend at the beach, and you know, it's a real threat. I mean, we lose people every year from rip currents, and it's completely preventable. You just got to know what to do and when to stay out of the water. So we'll keep looking out for that, but that is something we're going to be concerned about into early next week. Then finally, further west, there's a 50% chance of that little bit of action there over the Central America, getting into it and developing into something that may go into the Gulf. We're aware there are several computer models, a few of them anyway, that have some sort of a tropical system in the Gulf into early and mid part of next week that then crosses Florida and moves out over off the southeast coast. There's a reason why we have multiple models that we run that far in advance. We don't like to latch on to any one model, and neither does the Hurricane Center. So we'll keep our eye out on that. We've got some time, but yeah, just beware of what you see on social media. People sometimes like to post the worst case scenario that they see from a computer model. So we will obviously watch out for that and keep an eye on things over the next few days, and you know, keep your eye on weather.gov for the latest with that. So getting into the summary, we've got, again, deep upper level high pressure will keep us mostly dry today, most places. Again, north and west sections could see a little bit of a storm, isolated activity. The graphic you can see there for the Raleigh area, scattered rain showers. It's going to be very isolated, very light. So we're not expecting anything crazy going on today. Tomorrow, slight chance of showers and storms. Again, that's mostly across the north, and a couple of those could be strong if they do happen, but you know, the coverage should be fairly low. And as that upper level high starts to weaken over the eastern US, we'll have that backdoor cold front moving in, and that'll kind of sit over the Carolinas, meander over the next few days and into early next week. This front will dissipate, turn into like a weak trough, and then we do have a stronger cold front that will be approaching from the northwest by the middle of next week, and we will hopefully tell you a little bit more about that on our Monday briefing coming up. As far as hazards and impacts, looking at isolated heavy downpours possible Sunday into Monday, so we'll keep an eye on that. Something to watch out for as we get a little bit better coverage of showers and storms on Sunday and Monday. And lastly, we've got some hot weather expected Friday through Sunday. Parts of the sand hills and the coastal plain could hit a temperature of 100 tomorrow. And so that's going to be, you know, it's the heat indices we're looking at that. That may hold right at 105 or just below, because we've got some somewhat lower humidity. But you know, it's always good to keep in mind that it's still summertime, and although we're kind of acclimated to the temperatures and the humidity, it's always worth taking some safety rules. Take breaks in air conditioning if you can. Stay in well-ventilated areas. Keep yourself hydrated. Eat the salty snacks. Keep your sodium level up. Things like that. Just practice some good safe actions to keep yourself safe from the heat here over the next few days. So that is all I have. I will hang on here for a minute for any questions. And thanks so much, and we'll talk to you on Monday.